We are live this evening. My family and friends, thank you all so much for watching and listening tonight. We have a special guest, fellow Eagles joining and representing this evening, talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is STEM in terms of the youth. So this is going to be all goodness. So Isaiah,
Yeah,
let's get started, but let's tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about you and why STEM is so important to you, and more importantly, why you think it's so important to others.
sure. So I'm Isaiah Taylor. I'm from the DC and PG County area. I grew graduate of DeMatha Catholic High School and bachelor's from Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University's HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. I currently work at the John Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Columbia, Maryland. I what was it? Why is it okay? Why is it important to me?
Yeah.
Um, I was good at science and math in school, and I most of my family was blue collar, so I had a really strong faith background. My family was very faith based, very hardworking, but I knew I wanted more than what I saw my family have. And coming from DC, it's a lot of guys that went down the wrong path. A lot of them didn't have those male role models. I was blessed that my father was in my life, but he wasn't as active. My parents were divorced. So it was mostly my grandfather and my uncles that were my father figure. So much of my earlier childhood. So science and math was my way to a better life. Yeah, and I know I wanted to get paid well young. I wanted to get paid young. So
I
and
love that.
it would put me in it would put me in a space at an early age to have authority and to have power in my community for myself and for my community at a very young age. And it's definitely done that many times over. So.
Well, I love it that I'm the newest, probably member, one of the newest members of the Eagles organization, and we're all about education and empowerment. We're all about community service. You too are a member of the Eagles organization. And I think what I love about Eagles, as well as the Career Communications Group and my company, TTSE, Talent and Technical Solutions, is it's all about the embetterment of people. It's all about STEM empowerment because we focus a lot on computer science and other STEM field. I know you're well versed in your STEM journey. Think of what you would tell like our youth, because I want this conversation tonight to be about educating and empowering the youth to get more excited, more interested in STEM. So I'll tell you a little story, Isaiah. My daughter grew up in the STEM world. Interestingly enough, she really didn't want to be an engineer. Honestly, more about a patent attorney, right? So it was really about the pharmaceutical aspects of STEM and learning. And I know STEM means different things to different students and or different people. But I think what's critical about this conversation is what I want to focus on is what would you tell our young people that may be interested in the sciences, but unfortunately not accepted in STEM because for my daughter, it was a cohort of 20 and 20. So 20 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon students. She was the only African American girl or student actually in the morning session. And then there was one in the evening session. I want to get our youth excited today about STEM. It's the why and educate them on that because I know you have an amazing background and you've worked with youth and you work with the many, I think, along your journey, and you're relatively young yourself, very relatable and relevant.
Yes, I think I have the record for the youngest uh, Eagles member. Uh,
That's awesome.
I will say that you said what would I tell a high school college age person about it?
Yes. Hmm.
I think it's very much the same stuff you always hear. You have to be disciplined. You have to be focused. I think that it's a STEM is very much a long term play. A lot of guys,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it real. A lot
A
of young
marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, a lot of young black men, especially coming from the city, we chasing the money and we chasing the pretty girls. And a lot of
Hmm.
guys originally go into engineering and college because they think, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna get this check, and I'm gonna get the women, I'm gonna get this, and those guys wash out. because
It
they're
doesn't
not.
really happen, right? Where you get the women, the car, the house, the
I mean,
club
you
life.
can, but that's not why it's if that's what you're doing it for, if that's what you are
Right.
coming into it saying, hey, this is why I'm going to give. And see, this is, well, a lot of other people don't know. Uh, most um, college degrees actually are done in 6 years, not four, especially STEM.
Mhm.
Most STEM degrees actually take 5 or 6. Most people don't do them in four. I did mine in four
Mhm.
and a half. It was a class. One class pushed me back. So most people don't understand that. So if you're gonna give 4, 5, 6 years of your life and thousands of dollars just trying to chase women and money and material stuff, you're not gonna make it because
Mhm.
it's a very intense field. I'm gonna keep it real. It's mostly white and Asian male dominated, and
Mhm.
it's some of them are not used to seeing people that look like us in those rooms. I'm usually one of the youngest people, if not the youngest person in the rooms, and I'm in the room with senior people. So,
Mhm.
that people who are 40, 50, 60 years old and you 20 something years old. So that's there
That's
people
another dynamic, right?
yeah, people aren't used to that. And when you black. So, and when you come from where I come from, people aren't used to that. So,
Mhm.
and you know your stuff. They're sometimes their ego can't take that because you are the antithesis of what they think we are to be.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
um, a lot of my friends, oh, so-called classmates, a lot of my classmates when I was in A&M, they partied, they were smoking, they were running around, doing everything, but they were pledging, they were nothing wrong pledging, but that's not,
Mhm.
that was not my focus, right? That's not why you're there. You're there to get an education and to grow as a professional. I'm not saying you can't have other experiences that make you a more well-rounded person, but you're there to get your education and to get your connections. One of the first things I did when I got on campus was I I went and networked with my dean, with the dean secretaries, with my dean of students, with the academic provost, with basically all the big players on campus.
Mhm.
By the end of my first year, I knew them and they knew me. They may not remember my name, but they remember my face.
Mhm.
When I walked in the
Mhm.
office, I got what I wanted because I established those relationships. I was networking at a very early age. My first semester, my August, we moved in that August. By September of that semester, I was in the career office volunteering. So I ain't never.
Wow.
So I never wanted for a job. All the other kids graduated. Oh my god, where am I go? My problem was, am I getting the salary I want? Not am I going to have a job? And I
Mm.
don't say
Was
that.
that a paid job in the career office, like
No, no,
work
I was
study?
so I volunteered my
Okay.
whole 8 semester. Yeah, 8 semesters, 4.5 years, for 8, 9 semesters, and
Mhm.
a lot of my classmates thought I was bonkers. They were like, "Bro, why are you giving them people all that time and they not paying you?" And see, that's the other thing.
Mm.
A lot of black folk are very um, what's the
Focused on the money because they need the resources.
well, it's not, yeah, that's part of it, but it's more so
Mhm.
most of us have tunnel vision. We don't have foresight.
Yeah,
So
I always tell people one of the things I tell my younger self is don't be so short-sighted.
yeah,
Have
that's
a
very
have
true.
a mindset of an abundance mindset
Yeah,
in lieu of a mindset that's for lack, right?
yeah.
One that's more, yeah, I
A
think it's
lot of us,
important. Scarcity is not the best way to grow.
not at all, and a lot of my classmates, they couldn't see past the, oh, he working for free, he giving them people all that time for free. That's insane. But
Hmm.
what ended up happening was what that did was that showed that I was willing to work, I was willing to listen, and I was willing to help out an office that only had 4 or 5 ladies for a campus full of 5,000 kids. It was a small school, but that's a lot of people for only 4 or 5 ladies. So
Absolutely.
it showed that I was willing to come in and get in where I fit in. So whenever a company came to campus, guess who had a job?
Absolutely. You did.
Whenever a company came to campus, who was the first person that they called?
Hmm.
So I didn't have to worry about a job. I didn't have to worry about grad school. I didn't have to worry about, you know,
Hmm.
going to the military if I wanted to go the officer route. I had options when came out of college. A lot of my classmates didn't because they only saw what's in
Hmm.
front of them. So I would say, you know, it's very much. I think college, especially going to a smaller school, is very much like life. It's a strategy game. If you doing it, if you're just thinking of it, what's in front of you, you're probably not gonna get all that you could get out of it. You gotta focus.
Yeah, I see that. So you grew up, you said, look, you see STEM as an out, right? A
Yeah.
way to make a difference, have an impact, live a good living, which is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
Um, and that's we all want to do that. I mean, we all graduate from college. Some roads aren't easy, right? So we want to make sure we're able to make it when we get out. So you go to STEM. So you're in high school. You decide this is the trajectory for you. How did you approach? Because I'm just trying to get in your head in terms of I see it in high school as a means to an end.
Mm.
How did you get there? What would you offer a student that's trying to figure it all out, trying to get there? Like, that leap, it seems unattainable, I believe, for some people.
Mm. I don't know. I'm a little bit harsher than most. I don't believe unattainable. I believe in
Okay.
I believe in it may be more difficult for you.
Mhm.
But I just got
Mhm.
done teaching the intro to coding class at Urban League. Most of those kids come from the same place I come from, single mom. I wasn't low income, but we weren't rich either. Working
Mhm.
class people. You know,
Absolutely.
there were situations I could have used as to why I couldn't be where I am. But I think
Mhm.
that if you know, when my grandfather picked me up from school, he would watch me because my mother worked in crazy hours. So he would give me after at night after my granddad had me for a couple hours of school, but he would feed me. I'd do my homework. I was in the library.
Were you intrinsically motivated, Isaiah? I bet you were. Like your grandfather didn't have to say, "All right, Isaiah, it's about 5 o'clock. It's time to get this homework done." I bet you were one of those because that's important. People ask me too, like, what motivates you?
Well,
Even because I was like that in school. Like, no one was saying go to college. No one was saying, "Hey, you need to go ahead and do this," but I was intrinsically motivated because I saw education as a door of opportunity. And so I knew to the extent in which I could be educated, I could be in different rooms, having different conversations, learning different things, being exposed. And that's what I mean, as an eagle, that's what I want people to see me as too, as a CEO and also, an author. For me, it's like sometimes the motivation is within you. Like there's no motivation, dust, Isaiah, that someone's going to sprinkle over someone and there's an epiphany, right? And these kids go, "Oh, okay, I'm in high school and now I see college differently." I mean, what inspired you, or
I think it
what
was
was
both. So I
aspiring?
think it was two things. I think it was, believe it or not, it actually was. So part of it was me, right? Like, yeah, like I agree. I
Mhm.
don't think anyone can jump in your head and make you motivated. But I do think that,
Mhm.
like the old folks say, I was raised by the old folk. I believe what the old folks say. Common sense goes a long way, and most people, common sense ain't so common now. So I think that
Mm.
I could look around and be like, okay, my mama worked 3 jobs. My daddy worked 4, 5 jobs. My dad was in the active duty for 6, 7 years. My mom was working as a medical biller for 20 plus years. I ain't working that hard.
Right.
So, you
You're
know,
trying to work smart.
yeah, not necessarily not working hard, like, oh, I don't want to work hard, but I'm not going to be working
Right.
harder than I
Five
have
jobs.
to,
Yeah.
harder than I have to when there's a better way. Right. And
Right.
um that was a big part of it. I didn't want to go through no divorce, and my grandparents were, my granddad was a Marine and he did an odd job. My grandmother was a teacher. I was like, I ain't working out. So,
Right.
I don't comp. A lot of it was I don't want that. So let me
Mhm.
do better than, or let
Mhm.
me take what the sacrifices and what they're pointing to me to go do better for myself. But I think also a lot of it was my granddad, like seeing an upright, strong man who
Mm.
poured into me and who kept me on the
That's
straight and narrow
awesome.
every single day. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it was that because a 12-year-old boy, 14-year-old, you gonna get distracted. But he but
Right.
he he kept me on the straight and narrow. I was in the library after school. He kept me in the library. I was reading about reading coding books and reading web design books and math books, things of that nature.
This was in high school or college?
From m- middle school, I think middle school, but definitely high school.
Wow.
Definitely high school. I would say 14 plus. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
I think even before then, but definitely 14 plus. I was always in the library. Other kids was in the sports. I was in the books.
Mhm.
That was just
I
my thing.
love it.
So
I love it.
and I got made fun of a lot, and I got teased a lot, but bullied a lot. But it paid off now. So I
So
think
talk a little bit about that though, because I mean, our audience for this conversation, we're talking high school, college kids. Yeah, sometimes being smart isn't, for me, I'm all about beauty and brains. I give it up to my young ladies. I tell them, and guys, look, it's okay to be beautiful and be brilliant and be smart. But talk about that teasing, because I bet a lot of smart kids, and I'll use these words loosely, kind of dummy down a little bit, right? Play down
oh yeah,
their
no,
brilliance to
you
be
ain't gotta
accepted.
use it loosely. That's a thought, bro. I just got like I had this conversation all the time. Now that I'm in my late 20s and I can talk to guys who 21, 22, 19. I was like, look, bro, and I'm gonna say this on camera so everybody can see it. Do not. We live in a world where we are still getting used to black ascension, black excellence, especially for people under 35, under 40, and most certainly if you black, female, or male. And you come from an environment where the stats say you're not supposed to make it. So
Exactly.
I got called arrogant so bad when I was in high school and college. Now, probably was to a degree. But I think that the Asian boys did it every day. The
Absolutely.
white boy
Yeah.
did it every day. The Indian boy did it every day. They ain't seen nothing to him. But when they saw me walk in there with my suit on and my hat, they was like, who you think you're Barack Obama? Yeah, I do. But they're not used to it. So and I did, because that young, you still base that young, you haven't matured to base yourself off God's purpose for you and what you want. You base it off other people's. So at that age, you still care what people think. So you are because I wanted ladies to like me, because I wanted my boys to feel like I wasn't so hardy, I would not necessarily dumb myself down, but I would tone down. You hear that old poem about turn down your light. I would turn down my light.
Yeah, dimming that light so other people could
Yeah,
shine around you.
so other people's lights did not feel so inferior. But even though I ended up winning in the long run, what it does is it trains you subconsciously to be mediocre or to be less than everything God created you to be. So I don't do that now. I'm not going to be disrespectful. I don't have to be as
Absolutely.
probably, one of my professors called it bull in the china shop. I thought that was so funny. I don't have to necessarily be bull in the china shop about it, so brash about it, but I'm not going to diminish my awesomeness to make you feel like that's not my problem. So I'm not going to, like, if I have read that magazine, or if I have read that article, or if I have read that author, or if I have knowledge of that information, or if I've been to that conference, or if I have that clearance and I can see that, I'm gonna look at it. I'm not asking permission. I don't care how you feel about it.
Right.
And, that's
I love
just
it.
some people don't like that.
Being bold. I tell people to be bold all the time. So give me three key, because we're going to transition from your college life to this good professional life you're living now.
Yes,
Good,
I'm
you got that pre-collegiate,
Yeah.
you're in that little middle school, high school, then you've got the collegiate, and now we're going to transition to your professional. But before we do that, give me three key things that you would tell that college student trying to figure this STEM thing out, trying to make a difference, trying to be better than the generation that he had been exposed to in his or her upbringing. What would you tell that individual?
3? Yeah, man, that's hard. Number one, I'm gonna speak to the young man specifically because that's my heart. I'll speak to everybody, but to the young man. Stop running the streets. Stay focused. Stop chasing the girls. They're gonna be there. They ain't going with. Get focused. The pledge and then the women in the party. That's not all you did. Humble yourself is a big one. Don't. A lot of black men, our egos are big, and that's one thing to hold.
Humility is the new smart. I keep telling people. There's a book. Humility is the new smart.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about kissing behind, but
right. Oh yeah.
Humility in the sense of, Jack will tell you how I got into the Eagles. I just rolled up on him and Admiral Watson. Was like, yeah, I'm going out meeting. So I was respectful about it. I was respectful, but
and that had to be impressive because Jack and Admiral Watson. I mean, these are icons, right? These are legendary,
very
leaders.
Successful military men, 3 times my age.
Right.
So,
and they're impressed. They're like, okay. And there's a way to do that, right? Because some people can do that and it doesn't land as well, right? It could be a little bit harsh, but you did it in a way where they said, okay,
I mean, it was still
this
pretty
kid,
blunt,
he's serious.
but it was respectful, you know. And I think
Right.
that that's the thing. You have to, and see, and I tell people this all the time. A lot of people think that just because someone's and we talked about this during my initiating meeting. A lot of people think just because someone's color is different than yours,
Hmm.
they automatically your enemy. Most of the people that have given me the game have been old white men. Outside of
So,
outside of
so,
church and school, have been old white men.
well, that's a good point. So, one of the things you would tell, what I'm thinking, you would want to tell people, young people, would
Mm.
be to embrace mentorship in terms of diversity. And I can hover on this for a second here too, because oftentimes in my career, I didn't have women who looked like me. At one point, I did, but that kind of went away in about 2008. So, my best mentors and leaders. I've had a Caucasian female who was, and I'll give her a shout out, love her to death, Rear Admiral James. She broke, of course, records herself being in the maintenance, repair, and overhaul field, and as a female. But for me, yeah, I had Caucasian men because I didn't have any African American
Yeah,
women. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it
me
today.
neither. Me neither.
Um, these and I tell people it is okay to have a mentor. And just I'm gonna give a little plug because my book is about to drop this summer. Mastering mentoring to your vantage point, and I am hosting in Southern Maryland, the Leonardtown area. So put this on your calendar. It's going to be a little commute for you. Um, on August 4th, a mentoring mixer. But I really want to get people, especially in this hybrid work environment,
Mm.
not that we're out of COVID, but we're trying to get out of COVID,
Mm.
um, that this is an opportunity for people to literally embrace the diversity associated with mentorship. And I want people to know that, hey, look, if someone in your organization doesn't look like you still need to find a way to navigate through because success leaves clues. And the demystification of success, and I say this almost in every forum, you can be grinding for 12 hours a day. And I'm all about performance capital. Give it your due diligence, do what you need to do. But the reality is, you need to build some relationship capital because you need to have an ally, a mentor, a sponsor, or someone else that brings your name into a room that you're not present. And so over time, performance capital has a diminishing effect. Like if Isaiah does this in 6 weeks and it should take 12 weeks, after a while, if Isaiah does it in 8, I'm questioning what's going on with him because he needs to be delivering in 6 because that's the new norm. So the bar gets shifted. So I tell people all the time, you got to have some relationships. And oh, I'm an introvert. Oh, I'm this. So I would tell high school and college students now, not only would I tell them to buy my book, but that's later in the summer, but I would also tell them, find a, like you said, someone at the church, someone on your intern rotation, someone in the career development office, someone that is an ally for you in terms of mentoring, someone that you can say, hey, good, bad, ugly, um, you know, let me share, let me get some golden nuggets, and let me get some intel and advice. And a lot of times we find people don't do that. Like I will go into a room almost always, and I'll say by a show of hand who has a mentor. I was just down in Orlando speaking about talent management and talking about mentorship. That group gets it. They have always been Naval Air Station down in, it's a training division in Orlando.
Mm.
They get it. The room is, I'm always impressed. But I do go into some forums where people are like, I don't really know if I understand the mentoring thing. I don't know if I see the value. But even in high school, get a mentor, find someone, Eagle Scout, whatever. Look, we're an organization, we're about mentoring. So reach out to us, the Eagles organization, but you cannot do it alone. And those that say they pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, I always say either they're in denial or they're just liars. But the reality is, we all have someone that made a phone call, had a conversation, you
Yeah,
know, signed off on Isaiah's application, gave him a letter of recommendation. And so
absolutely.
building those relationships, wouldn't you agree, open doors?
And I will say this, like I will put this asterisk on it. I will say, get outside of the normal places where most black
Mm.
people
Be the
congregate.
oddity.
So, like, I was going to Chamber of Commerce. I was in the Forbes Summit. I got a Forbes award when I was 21. I
Wow.
got to go to the Forbes Summit and meet people I would have never, young black boy from a single mom would have never even. All right, so
Wow.
it's really a lot of us are afraid to go places where we're not commonly seen. If
So
it's not,
that's another bit of advice. Be the oddity, right?
yeah, I would say be the odd one out. Like I just went to the AIAA Defense Forum. That's American Institute of Aeronautics and Astro, and most of them were old white men. Now I'm probably one of the only
Mm-hmm.
black people in there, and all of them fell in love with me. Right, got a lot of contacts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you gotta. You're not gonna get the juiciest opportunities in life doing the beaten path typically. Right, the fact that
Right.
I was born to spend 6 years in the deep South and I'm predominantly, let's keep it real, in Alabama, a state with not the best history with our people. A lot of us
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that. They got the degree and they bounce. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason why I get paid what I get paid now. Was because I
Mm-hmm.
was willing to do what people who look like me and who were my age wasn't willing to do. And I made that
I
sense.
love
I mean,
it.
it wasn't much of a sacrifice for me, but I was willing to do what you got to be the uncommon one out, right? That's how you tend to get the best opportunities. Doing
Mm-hmm.
what everybody else is doing. It's not necessarily bad.
Were you uncomfortable though? Because I could see some young people saying, "Look, Isaiah, I'm listening. I hear you, but I'm just not comfortable in that space. Just stepping out."
Better get
Were
used
you
to it.
ever were you ever uncomfortable? And if so, how did you push through that?
Get over it.
Just push through. Focus. I always tell people, stay focused,
It ain't gonna
right? Focus
change.
on the end state.
It ain't gonna
Yeah,
change.
that's true.
It ain't going. It don't get no easier. I think what gets easier is as you do it more often, it has a less of a
Mm.
uh
You're more comfortable with it.
yeah, it doesn't it has less of an impact on you. But I like,
Hmm.
and I don't want to sound like it's, oh, he just do it. Like I've done it so often that it doesn't bother me as much anymore. But every once in a while, you still get goosebumps, you still get butterflies.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, start small. Go to a golf game. A lot of urban black
Do you
guys.
play golf, Isaiah?
I can. I'm not great at it, but I've
That's
done
me
it.
too.
I've
I
done
know.
it.
Well, and look, I was so determined, and I tell people too. Yeah, I got my little golf clubs.
Yeah.
Got the cutest little outfits. Now I can definitely look the part, but but I get out there and play, and I like it because I learn. I mean, I'm listening to conversations. 9 holes, but by you're playing 18 holes with someone. You really form a relationship, and sometimes you get on teams. I love doing tournaments, and because I love doing things for good causes. So if it's a fundraiser, for whatever, it's like, oh, okay, that's good. Um, but yeah, I like it. I enjoy it. I tell people, you'll be surprised how many will step out there that look like you and me, but it's all good. They're accepted, and it's all good. So yeah.
Go to the golf range. Go to what's the one? Lions Club, Rotary Club. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Go to places where people who make decisions, um, but who probably won't necessarily look like you, and those are probably going to be
Hmm.
where some of your juiciest opportunities are because you can make an impression. And let's just be real; those tend to be the places where people who actually got authority and who can make decisions. Because see, it's a different feeling when you got to go apply to a job for 6 months and versus somebody to pick up the phone and get you a job. That's a different feeling. Or where
Absolutely.
you need a certain level of clearance and you got to go fill out the paperwork and yada yada yada. Or the guy can say, "Look, fill it out," and I'll tell them to I'll call the people wherever and they're going
They'll
you're
take
merely
care of
going
it.
through you're merely going through a formality. That's a whole
Right.
different level of feeling. Or like, hey, um, other kids are worrying about how to pay for their master PhD. Which PhD program do you want? Right. That's a different
Hmm.
level of feeling. So, but you only
Yeah.
get to those kind of options when you put in the work and being uncomfortable. So I would say be uncomfortable, humble yourself, discipline and focus, and
I
yeah,
love that.
don't get distracted. That's what I would sum it up as.
Yeah, I think about the diversity of my mentors, and like you said, yeah, be the oddity. I always tell people, and be okay. Sometimes you're more competent than you are confident.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing I always tell people, the adrenaline, the anxiety you feel, because I'm an introvert too, people don't believe it, but the anxiety you feel is your ally, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to step into that room, not feeling like I'm the smartest, not feeling like I'm in my home space because it's not as comfortable. Um, be confident, right? And be competent that you'll engage. And I always tell people, do your lonely work. I tell my young people I mentor, don't step into a room and you don't know anybody, right? I would be like, okay, so Isaiah is going to be there. Let me do a little research on him. So if anything, I can like and similar conversation, I can strike some dialogue up that will make me feel comfortable in that space. And so some of that is just doing the work.
Well, that's why, like, I think that, this is gonna sound old school, but I think a lot of it, like, and another one of my mentors, Clayton, and Clayton said this. Um, Clayton Mitchell, he's a guy who's on boards. He's really senior engineer. He has a P license. And he said, getting in the room is half the battle, but you have to be able to converse with these people. So,
Absolutely.
I was at a civic engagement event at my church yesterday, and I was talking about different conservative authors and different libertarian authors, and they were just wild that I even knew what that stuff was. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to,
Mm.
if like you said, doing the lonely work. So if you're not taking the time to read the Wall Street Journal, you're not taking the time to read the Morning Brew. If you're not taking the time to read Black Engineer, if you're not reading at least one industry related magazine in your field,
Per
you're
day.
probably, I don't know about per day. Per day is extreme. I would say at least like
Uh-huh.
once a month, maybe.
Once a
Like,
month.
yeah,
Okay.
minimum. I mean, I don't do as much as I should. I need to do more on myself, but I'll say at least
Hmm.
once a month.
But do
Um,
you carve out some time, Isaiah? You strike me as the type that would do this. I do this. I at least allot an hour and a half per day just to read something, research something, learn something
I
new.
do it throughout the day. Like, I don't carve it out. I
Mm-hmm.
just go throughout the day. Like when I'm engineering at work, I'm watching a video on real estate, or I'm aware of some tax change that they about to pass. So I'm,
Mm-hmm.
somebody got this guys the University Consortium for Hypersonics, these five professors just published this paper, and or the Air Force is funding this, whatever. Like, I just constantly am looking at indulging,
Mm-hmm.
not indulging, what's the word, ingesting
I
um,
love it.
different information. Howard is the first HBCU in history to get a center of excellence funded, to get a federal research center of excellence funded by the Air Force in autonomous air systems. Right, so that's a major
Mm-hmm.
accomplishment for the HBCU community. But I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't plugged in. So, if you're,
Right.
a lot of our people just can't work the room. Like, they go into these rooms with you talking to a GS-14 SES, a 1 star, a colonel. You can't go up there talking about the Redskins game. Like, not saying that you
Mm-hmm.
can't, but people at that level, they have certain kinds of conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong. You got to be able to switch, and I find that's something that our people have a hard time doing. You can have the banter, the everyday common conversations, the football game, how the wife doing, but when you can go up to a person at that level and talk about, hey, this, I saw this professor's publishing this paper, I saw China's doing this, or I saw Russia's doing this, or I saw the Wall Street Journal came out with this. That's how you converse with people at that level, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
those are, different authors call it signaling factors. That signals to people in that level that you're worthy of being
Mm-hmm.
in that kind of space. So, and then they bring you into that kind of space. So you have to be able to talk the language and have the knowledge of people who are at that level that you're trying to go to. So that's why you have to be reading and studying on your own time. It's so important. You can't just walk into a room full of colonels and just think you about to work that over and over and over again. You
Yeah.
don't have no knowledge. That's not how that's gonna go. So,
I love that. So that third point would be that life learner, right? You need to always be learning,
yeah,
be able to work the room, feel comfortable in any space.
yes.
I love that. I love that.
And it doesn't
So,
have to
okay,
necessarily be formal education. It could be, Jack and I talked about trades. It could be, like you said, Wall
something
Street
that's
Journal.
in the
It could be,
environment today,
yeah,
political, whatever, something
yeah.
that you think,
It
right?
doesn't have to
Be
be
careful.
degrees,
Yeah. No, I
but
love that.
yeah,
So now, okay, so you've graduated, I'm
yeah.
sure summa cum laude, crushed
No,
it.
Magna.
Magna cum laude. Oh, because I'll give you that because you were in engineering. So I know it's super hard.
Yes,
Yes, I know it's super hard. So
yes.
tell me a little bit about you enter into the workspace, right? What's that transition like for you? And what can our young STEM people that really are still believing that they want to do STEM, but maybe not necessarily appreciating the importance of it. Now you're in the work world. Talk a little bit about how important it is, what you're doing, the impact it's having, and why it's important to pursue STEM like careers in today's environment.
So I will say this. I think a lot of it, and I'm going to burst some bubbles here. A lot of it is a lot of people, a lot of engineers aren't really engineers; they're technicians. So I'll
Okay.
explain what that means. So they sell you on engineering. Oh yeah, you're going to get, like I said, the cars, the women, a big house, pretty big job. You're going to be building lightsaber, Back to the Future car, Elon Musk, whatever. You're going to be working on this cutting edge, life changing. Most engineers right out of school are doing grunt work. You're doing CAD drawings.
Mm,
You're maintaining old programs. You're writing code that's been documented. 20-year-old programs. You're not doing real engineering. You're doing more technician work. Like you're maintaining what's been done since before you were born. Now that's not bad.
mm-hmm,
That's how you learn the basics. It's how you learn the fundamentals. But after 3-4 years of that, it's time for you to accelerate. So
mm,
what I will say is, and even though I did just say it doesn't always have to be a degree, this is why I'm pushing grad school so hard, or the military, or both, for a lot of young early career people. Let's just keep it real. For you to get in the room, in certain rooms, credentials matter. And
mm-hmm,
if you are under 30, under 35, and you trying to get into certain rooms with, like I said, these senior military, these senior federal private sector people, and you look like us, you got to be,
mm-hmm,
the old folks used to say 2 times, I think 10 times. You got to be,
mm,
you got to be on your square 10 times as good, because they looking at College Park, they looking at John Hopkins, they looking at USF, they looking at UF, they looking at Texas, they looking at everybody else outside of HBCU. So why should you be here? And they're gonna
mm,
make you, and they're gonna look at your stuff 10 times harder to be like, okay, I got these 25 big top tier schools. Who are you and why are you here? And they're not gonna come out and say it like that, but subconsciously they're gonna be scrutinizing your stuff more. So if you want to get
mm-hmm.
to the rooms early, you know, military and or graduate education makes a huge difference. At least in STEM, because it's such a academic tech heavy field. Graduate education makes a big difference.
Sure.
I tell everybody this story. My VP, he's one of my OG mentors. He still mentors me to this day. I call him Uncle Jeff. Jeff Dow out of Huntsville. He said,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna take you 10 to 15 years to make this kind of money. And I was like, who by the way till he 35, 40 old to get that kind of money? I don't get this kind of money in my 20s. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say it out loud. I said it in my head. So what did I
Right,
do?
right.
A year later, I went back to got into my master in aerospace, and now I'm almost done with that. So and now that took so many doors for me. People started hitting my LinkedIn. That's a whole nother topic, right? That could be a whole class on itself,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. But the people started hitting my LinkedIn. Um, uh, I had, like I said, I had some really lucrative job offers start coming in. Even the fact that I was just working on my master, not even had finished, and I was already cleared.
Right,
So to be as
right.
young as I am, and black, and cleared at that level, and master, yeah, that
Yeah.
it makes a big difference. So, and that's when I got into John Hopkins, and then that changed my life, because we're the largest federally funded research development center, or you are, I can't remember which one class under. We're the largest federally funded research development center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of federal expenditures, and I work on major programs. Like I'm 20 something years old, and I'm doing career defining stuff in my 20s. If I ever leave,
Mm-hmm.
I can write my ticket wherever I want. But I wouldn't have got into that opportunity if they didn't see certain things on my piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if you're going to go into a STEM field, it's very important. Yes, the world needs it. You will always have a job. You will always have, you'll never go hungry, but realize how
Mm-hmm.
competitive it is. A lot of people think, oh, I can just go get this bachelor's in engineering and I'll just coast. Yeah, you can. You'll get the $100,000 check in a cube.
Yeah.
And there's nothing
But
wrong with that if that's what you want.
exactly. And all
But
you hear for those that like, I don't know, it seems like it's everything, right? STEM, 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 STEM. Um, STEM conferences, STEM workshops, STEMing for girls, STEM in a box for middle school.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, it seemed like it's just driving the trajectory in terms of, like you said, the high paying, more influential, I think, careers. Would you agree that that's kind of where the impact is, where you're going to have the greatest impact is in many of these STEM like
I tell
fields?
people all the time, if you're not going into STEM, business, accounting, finance, law, medicine, education, if you're not going into like 5 or 10 different fields,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, going to 4 year college, at least right away, doesn't make sense, because
Mm,
it's simply a business decision, right? Like it doesn't make sense if you're going into a degree where you're only going to maybe making 30, 40 grand a year. Why are you taking out 50 grand a year? Like that doesn't make any sense, right?
right.
But I would say that, yeah, either STEM, accounting, finance, business, MIS, something like that. medicine,
Hmm.
law, something like that. Some, one of the big hitter fields you always hear about. Education is always, it's not as lucrative, but it will always be needed. Um, but if you're not, yeah, STEM is, if you go into STEM and you do it well. See, that's the key. A lot of guys just go in there, get the degree, go to work for Northrop, and just go in a corner until they're 40 at a cube. That's not doing it well. That's getting a check. But if you do
Hmm.
it well and you go into these professional organization meetings and you networking with these generals and these admirals, you go to these conferences and you volunteering to go to all these different bases in the middle of nowhere to do these flight tests when don't nobody else want to go. You're doing that kind of stuff for 5 years.
Hmm.
That's how you do it well, right? So you can, STEM is very much you get in what you put out. You can, especially engineering, you can do it very, very, very well and get paid very, very good money and meet some very, very cool people. But you're not going to do that just going and getting a cube and going in the corner. So it depends on what you're trying to put into it and what you're
So
trying to get.
how important? So you move to this professional space now. I'm a little biased. I'm the regional director for the Eagles, and I'm all about believing and the impact that we can have. But tell me why you were so eager. I mean, you're the youngest, so you're already, breaking more and more, if you will, kind of stereotypes and barriers and overcoming obstacles. Why the Eagles for you? And what would you tell if you had to say, look, I'm all about being an Eagle and my passion for wanting to be an Eagle? Tell me a little bit why and what was your interest and why you pursued it so eagerly.
Jack actually, so our founder, CEO Jack, he actually approached me with the opportunity. I asked Jack just to mentor me first of all, honestly. Um, but he asked me. I told him I was really passionate about helping other young black men, specifically in the DC area, that's where I'm from. A lot of guys in DC and Baltimore go down the wrong way because they don't have nobody to show them. So
Hmm.
I told him that. I met him at Black Engineer Year Conference and met Hayes and met Emerald Watson, met a lot of the other OGs of the organization there. We were all in the same seminar, and they
Hmm.
all liked me. And then Jack said, "Hey, man, I want you to think about this." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And I thought it was a great opportunity. I wasn't opposed to it. I said, "Hey, well, if I'm gonna ask for something from him, at least I can do is get something in return." Uh, so why I would say do it? I've met some amazing people. I've only been in a couple of months now. I've met some amazing people, and it I do believe that you being at the level you are, much higher than me, you understand the scale, and scale is a very important variable when you're trying to have impact at scale. You're probably not going to do it as a one person machine. You need an organization behind you. So I think this is a way to do what we're all trying to do disparately, what we would be doing if we weren't in the Eagles. But now that we're all combined, right, we can have,
Hmm.
we can have that impact at that much of a larger scale. So
Right. If you want to multiply, you have to magnify, right?
that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
I love that. And for me, being an Eagles, it's about service, right? It's about giving back. It's about having an impact. It's about what I love is the brotherhood, sisterhood aspect of it, and the fact that we are all over the world. We're definitely representing in the United States heavily, East Coast and West Coast. Founded, of course, on the West Coast, but growing our footprint on the East Coast. And the fact that it's all about mentorship. It's about knowledge is powerful to me only when it's transferred. And so that's when I think of the Eagles. I see us as an organization that's giving back and having an impact and doing it willingly, wholeheartedly, with the highest degree of excellence and commitment. And so, those are the things I look for when I look for an organization and I'm graduating and I'm out into that professional sector and I want to grow and have an impact. So I think that's awesome.
And I would just piggyback and say that, like you said, we're nationwide. But the good thing about the Eagles is I think it combines the I never was in the military, but I was raised by military men. A lot of my life lessons I learned from the military. The good thing about being in something like the Eagles is you have the resources of a large organization. Like most of us are well paid. Most of us know people who are well paid. We could pick up the phone and get stuff done. But we're small enough to where we're flexible to go do execute. You don't have to get 5 approvals to do something. All
Oh
right. So,
yeah, bureaucracy is exhausting.
yeah. So I think that when you're in these big orgs, you got to get 5 approvals and get the president, whoever to sign off, and then people are lazy, they don't want to do anything because it's about them and their office. But here, most of us are set. We're already accomplished, established. So we're doing this because we genuinely like to do it. Not saying we can't still get other opportunities, but
Hmm.
we're already good. So um, I look at it as a way to, it only going to accelerate what I got going on. But most of it is about giving back, like you said, and giving back to the community I care about in a more efficient, uh,
Mm-hmm.
an optimal manner. So,
And right, and the fact it's a very diverse organization too, because I go back to, like you said, we've had mentors that didn't look like us, right? We've had to be oddities in the room where we were the minority, but we had to connect with people that were different and diverse from different backgrounds, different parts of the United States, or culturally different, or grew up inner city, suburbia. But the fact that you get to do all of that, and you have a portfolio of leaders across the Eagles organization pouring into you and others so we can better serve our communities, I think is truly powerful.
and it's nationwide, where I think we're in 7 states right now, or no, 7 regional
Mm-hmm.
directors, excuse me, all over the country. So it's and but unofficially, Jack does think DC is going to be the one that takes the crown, but that's unofficial.
Well, of course,
Don't
of
tell the
course.
people I
Yeah,
said that, but that's unofficial.
exactly. Yeah, we'll our other Eagles, we know they're listening because we have a strong support system, and I see them in here on the chat. So, but of course, we're going to reign supreme. I mean, we're the nation's capital in all things, and we will still reign supreme. So, and you know me, I love a good challenge. We haven't even begun to unleash our greatness, so I'm super excited about all that we're going to do. But it starts with young people, and it starts with, I think, leaders like you, Isaiah. I applaud you. I don't know if anyone told you lately how proud they are of you, but I am.
Appreciate
Yeah, when I see young men and women like you doing your thing, out here grinding, keeping, I think, your future, not being short sighted, not living with a mindset of scarcity. But seeking, you already know, look, the world is out there. You have a mindset of abundance. And I think that's one of the keys to success. Being bold as well, being an effective communicator is what I'd also tell my young people. Get excited about what you do.
Yeah.
Know that I tell people, when I was an undergraduate at Norfolk State University, so shout out to all my
Yes,
HBCUs. And
HBCU pride. Yes.
yes,
Right.
I said this last night when I took stage at a ball we held for the Carolyn E. Parker Foundation and Reach Back and Lift One, our foundations. I always thought I would be significant. I never wanted to be successful, though. So when I was an undergraduate, I used to ask myself and ask others, like, oh man, I hope we're able to come back and be, like, worthy of coming back, right? Because we were living a life of significance. And I tell people, younger people particularly, look to serve in this STEM world a cause greater than you.
Yep.
It
Right.
makes, yeah, look to serve a cause. If you're trying to solve a problem, which a lot of I mean, that's kind of what engineering is all about,
You
but
paid to
look
do.
for that to be,
Right. Right.
exactly, look for that to be something greater than you. It gets easier. It gets to be more impactful. Your reach is greater, and collaboration and partnership, I think, is another key to success. And that's also what the Eagles is all about. So I know we're going to be running out of time. We got about a few minutes, about 10, 12 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would offer our youth in terms of STEM that I've not asked you, or anything that you would, lifelong lessons, anything you've learned along the way that you don't really get a safe space or forum to share and socialize, that you want to take this opportunity to talk about?
I will say that you only gonna go as high as you set your sights.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, when I was 22, I thought all I wanted was that $70,000 in the paycheck. Cause that's all my what's the word? That's all my perspective was. That's all that was inside my perspective, my horizon at the time. And there's nothing wrong
Mm-hmm.
with that per se. But if you're a biblical person, Christ said he came for you to have abundance. So you can't have abundance if you living below less than. So I think
Absolutely.
that if you're a biblical person, you believe that you're meant to have all you can have and be all you can be. And I mean, and with God gives us free will, you can choose to be that or not. But you only got one life. At the end of the day, that's on you. So I know I wanted
Mm-hmm.
more than that. So now I'm getting my master's done. Now I'm like, well, yeah, it's nice, but what I thought was money, and then I see how much them contracts is, how much Northrop's getting paid. I look how much I'm getting. This money was 20 something years old and you single. It's money, but I look at what Raytheon them getting paid. I'm like, no, this ain't no money. you paying me whatever, but you building an $80 million missile? Nah. All right. So now I'm looking at PhD programs. So it's and getting Hayes and I'm talking about Jack and I'm getting a federal contract. So
Hmm.
it's all dependent upon your perspective at that time. That's why you have to get in different rooms and uh,
Change that mindset. I tell people if you
yeah,
shift your paradigm
yeah,
in
there
terms
you
of your
go.
mindset, you can change your trajectory. And
Push your paradigm.
but the power is only you can do that, right?
Yeah,
You have to find a way to do that, and not look at where you are to be your final destination. When I talk to children, or I say they're children to me because I'm up there now, but it's
right.
like, look, do you think, like they're asking me these rhetorical questions, like, do you really think I can? Absolutely. I tell people when you put labels on yourself, you limit yourself. So I don't label myself in terms of, if I could just get this degree. When I was at Harvard and I was walking the halls where, Obama stayed, right? It was like, here I am, a young African American female in Norfolk, Virginia. Like Norfolk State, a scholarship landed me there. I'm intrinsically motivated to embrace academic excellence, right? So I'm like, 1B out of all 4 years, but I'm just determined. I want to be a high priced K Street lawyer to shape the nation's capital in terms of policy
There
programs.
you
And
go.
then
There you
you
go.
go from, and then I pivot, right? I go into the military supply corps officer direct commission, go to Georgetown University to get another degree in legislative affairs, and then decide I want to get this, executive leadership programs and at Harvard. So when I tell people, I never would have imagined I would have walked the campus, and I'm sitting with students throughout the globe. But what I knew then, when you started to speak, not only were you a good listener, but I was able to also show that I had earned the seat at the table. And so believing in yourself, not being cocky or overly, you don't want to be rude or obnoxious, but just be competent and confident in terms of, look, be prepared, right? So when you're speaking and someone goes, oh my goodness, how did you learn to speak like that? And Michael and I'll tell you a story about that. I was at a dinner party in DC, and a man asked me that, and I said, well, I'm formally educated and professionally trained, so I guess that's where I learned to talk. But be confident and competent in who you are and represent everything that you stand for. Like when we speak in terms of Eagles, we speak with that degree of excellence, that degree of humility, that degree of servitude, that community service aspect, which is in our core, in our ethos, and what we believe. And so represent a brand. Like I tell people, look, Kim Kardashian wasn't the only one that discovered self-branding. We know it's important to show up, and your image is your brand. And so take that along when you're on social media and you're living, like you said, you're hanging with the wrong crowd. Know that you do have a brand. Know that it will carry the weight when you don't feel that you have the skills to do so. It will enter the room before you enter the room. And so
I agree.
yeah, that's the other thing I offer my young people. Just think about that. And unfortunately, some of the decisions you make today, like I used to tell my children, you don't always get a do-over. You
No,
don't
you
always
don't.
get a do-over.
No, you don't. And
So
yeah, especially for people like us, I think it's
yes,
even less likely that you'll get a do over.
exactly. So be prepared to make that first impression, the best impression. And I talk about the pie formula a lot when I talk to people, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to work hard and be amazing. That performance piece is only 10%. I keep telling people do it very well, but it has a diminishing effect over time. The bar gets shifted when you meet the bar. It's just like running a hurdle, running races. And I ran track and when I was in high school, but we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving the hurdles as you reach them. So what's really important to many people is to have the pie, the performance, but also have that image, have the branding laying flat. But the key, 70% of success, 10% is your performance, 20% is that's that I, your image, how you show up, your best self. But that 70% of that formula for success, it's all about exposure. So you have to find yourself in rooms that make you uncomfortable. You have to find yourself in rooms that give you pause. Anxiety, embrace it. It is allowed for you to go from good to great. So being nervous is the best feeling. And when you take center stage and push through it, you'll find it to be the greatest reward. Ask for help when you need help. No one gets to where they want to be alone. It's a community. We operate as African Americans, like many other minorities, very communal, right? We do everything in terms of communities. And so I think that's important when you need help to ask for help.
And we just spent the last 5 minutes on this because I really want to hit this home because especially for the younger generation, for Gen Z, this is critically important. I think you said something very powerful that I forgot to say that no one told me when I was 21, 19 is that they're going to keep moving the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think it's going to be a bachelor's. I mean, they ain't need a master's.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, now you need a master top secret.
Right.
You ain't got a master top secret. Oh, well, you ain't got 20 years experience. I'm not waiting till I'm 40,
Right.
bro. I'm not doing that. All right, well, maybe you PhD. So they're going to keep, as long as you're working on another man's ship, they're going to continue to move the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you look at the IRS tax data of most billionaires in this country, they own either corporation or real estate or both. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to make it in this world at the levels that you got meant for you to make it, in my opinion. Not just my opinion, other people say so, but just because I'm the person speaking, my opinion, you have to own something. You're not the tax code is not written for working with somebody. The tax code is written for ownership. So
Right.
I beat the entrepreneurship horse to death, especially
Mm-hmm.
coming from the South. If you go, and that's why I say the library is so critical. There's a lot of books that I read in the A&M library that most libraries don't carry. Like there were wealthy
Mm-hmm.
in the states, in the United States before the Civil War, there were wealthy free blacks. Most people don't know that. That
Mm-hmm.
there were the guy that invented Edison gets fame for the light bulb, but the guy that invented the filament that made his electric revolution possible was a young black boy, Louis Latimer.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta, if you do not, as early as you can, learn, like while you reading that Wall Street Journal and a bit Morning Brew and that kind of stuff, Financial Times, learn about LLC versus S corp versus C corp, learn about incorporation. Like if it was
Mm-hmm.
up to me, you wouldn't be able to graduate college without having looked at an operating agreement or articles of formation, or looking at
Right.
more basic income statement, balance
Balance
sheet
sheets.
statement, and
Mm-hmm.
statement of cash flows, in my opinion, because you're not going to make it. Once you're making $150,000 a year,
Right.
unless you're in the private sector where you're working 16 hours a day, you ain't gonna make that much more money. And at that point, they tax you through the nose, and ain't gonna make a difference no way. At that
Right.
point, you need to be owning something. So
It's funny you said that. So I'm at the Harvard Innovation Lab, just checking it out a little bit. You can't take pictures of the work, right?
right,
So I
right,
see on the board, and it's like, wow, $5 billion worth of revenue has been generated through the Innovation Lab, and it had like 3,500 programs, right, that they've established. And I thought, so these kids are in the dorm, right? They're just collecting checks because the school, they don't get
right,
anything from that. The teachers don't get anything from that. And I
right.
thought, So I was talking to one of the students. I said, so what do like, where are you going to go work? Like, what is this going to look like for you afterwards? And he was like, work? Like, you mean like find a job? I was like, yeah, just a thought. He said, we don't like look for jobs when we graduate from Harvard. We create them. And I thought, oh,
That's real. That's some real
that's
gangster.
some good
That's
stuff,
real
right?
mafia don
Right?
stuff.
That's
When I
some
went
good
to
stuff.
MIT, that's how they talk. When I went and visited MIT, I went to MIT to look at their PhD program. They talk just like that. They
Right.
walk
So
around there like
that's the other thing for youth.
a
Look,
job.
if
Like, what
you
are you
don't
talking?
want to
Like,
work
how
for
dare you
someone,
approach me? Like, what a job?
exactly.
Like
You can be the
yeah.
job
Like, what?
supplier, right? You can
Yeah,
create the job.
like you troglodyte. How dare you ask me about a job? Like they ain't say it
Right.
like that, but they look at you like, what? Like,
Yeah.
boy,
That
like
was
boy,
that was my moment. I
like,
thought, okay.
boy, we make jobs. We don't work for them, right?
Exactly.
But that's the. But see, I was talking like that
Exactly.
at A&M, and they told me I was bougie. But that's the mentality that you got to have.
Right.
You got to
Right.
own something. Like a job is good for for first 5 10 of your career. But while
Right.
you 45 years old and you ain't never started another, I'm not saying you gotta be this Bill Gates, but you can go
Exactly.
start lawn care or something. I don't care. You need to have some kind of ownership to where you own something you can pass down generational wealth. You're not gonna make it work on the other man's cog in the machine. That's just
Right.
my opinion.
And our youth, there's so many hidden talents, and that's what I want them to think
Yeah,
about too. If you
absolutely.
don't fit in the box, because we talked about being an oddity, if you don't fit in a box designed for you, maybe by your parent, maybe by a counselor,
By
maybe by
society.
someone. Exactly. It's okay. Pivot from that,
Well,
right? Do
first of all, you
you.
ain't gonna get the big money fitting in a box, no way. Because if they paying you
Exactly.
big money, if you 20 something years old and you getting jail 13, 14 money, you don't fit in no box because that ain't
Exactly.
normal. So you don't fit in the box. You know, you need to be outside the box
Exactly.
anyway.
And
If
be
you trying
comfortable with that.
and get
I
comfortable,
love
it
it.
ain't going away. So don't
Well,
fit in the box. Get out the box.
I, I think that's it. Any closing? I know we're almost out of time, but
Not so
any
good.
closing comments? This was a great discussion, Isaiah.
Yes. So
You're
we
doing
probably
it.
gonna make it a monthly or bi-monthly series or something.
Absolutely. Well, this is my STEM room on the Career Communications Group. So I'm the head of all of the STEM content that goes in terms of the Career Communications Group. So you can
Really?
see this is
Okay.
my company. That little tree is
Yeah.
Talent and Technical Solutions. So I am on the board. And so I can have as many conversations as I want throughout the month, week, day, whatever I want to do on my platform.
Okay.
So I love it. And you will be hearing for all our listeners and our viewers, lots of cool things that the Eagles we're doing. Not only that, you'll learn more about each of us in terms of our offerings and what we're all about. And I will definitely be leveraging this platform to do so because at Talent and Technical Solutions, where I'm the CEO, it's all about people, passion, and performance. And that really is what our organization is about. So honored to be the regional director, honored to have Isaiah. Round of applause wherever you are listening for his time this evening and the willingness to share and pour knowledge in all of our youth. To me,
Yes,
we're
and
only
let me put
good.
my before we close out, Adrian. Let me if we dropping plugs, I gotta put my LinkedIn in the chat.
Let's
So
do it. We want to
they
make
can
ourselves accessible to continue the
yes,
conversation.
they can
Very
find
important.
it. Cause I feel it. I feel in my spirit. Somebody gonna be hitting me with a professorship offer probably next 5 years. So I need to
Let's do it.
go ahead and
Let's
drop
do it.
see it. So but yeah, I think we should do this more often. We'll talk about that offline.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners and viewers, and thank you for the love and support. Eagles, we show up wherever we are, whatever we're doing. So thank you, Jack. Thank you, team. I see you out there. We are out on the East Coast, family and friends. Until next time, be blessed, stay safe, and take care. Bye bye.
Yes, man. Bye bye.